So, the claim of the day, 15 years in politics have made me a better programmer. For the next 50 minutes, let's go through that. But first, the question I guess that many of you ask is like, politics, programming, what? How are these related? What's the intersection here? Well, as you might guess, the common denominator is me. So here's some pictures of me in places like this. For instance, from this exact multi-keynote 2 years ago, when I gave a talk about Kotlin and Jakarta E, which is the topics I'm typically talking about at developer conferences like this. Jakarta E, microprofile, Java, Kotlin, runtimes implementing those like OpenLiberty, Quarkus, and so on. I'm not going to talk much about those today. But you can see me from several other conferences as well. Like I'm an Oracle Ace Pro IBM champion, so like, believe me, I'm a developer. And in my everyday work, I write software for the Norwegian government, mainly in Kotlin. But in my spare time, this is also me, in another environment, so to say. So I'm the deputy chair of the Red Party in Oslo. This is not a I'm not trying to convince you to vote for us, so don't worry. But like this is also me, like preparing to hand out information about our politics, our policies to potential voters. Means some meetings. When we are celebrating a good election a couple of years ago, and to the down right here, you can see me and a couple of friends in the US, 2017, as part of the Bernie Sanders campaign. So also quite involved in politics a bit for many years. That has taught me some things that might be useful to share with you. I hope so, at least. But yes, remember to vote on Sunday. Presidential elections are always important, you know. So if you have any questions, use Slido as you've been used to for the entire conference. So this is the question you want to ask. I want to answer today. What can you learn from politics to become a better programmer, or better developer, or better team member? I think you can use these advices regardless of which role you have in the team. So let's start off with a disclaimer. I'm going to give you lots of hints and tips. I've done mistakes on all these myself. Hopefully I've learned from them. Disclaimer number 2, I'll assume that this is correct, that you know programming. If not, you have bigger problems than this talk. So I'll focus on the politics part and draw some connections and hopefully connect some dots. But I'm not going to teach you programming today. So whenever you see this one, I'm switching into a slightly different topic. Everything is kind of related, but they're grouped into several sections. So I'm going to start with a message, and this is maybe, I think this is the most important aspect. You know, it's always hard to say which topics are most important when you think everything is important. I'll come back to that later on as well. But message. So an important hint here, or advice from me, is like adjust the message to the person you're talking to. If you're talking to a fellow developer, you can assume some knowledge about programming and topics like Kubernetes or Kotlin or Scala or whatever. You can use those terms and expect the one you're talking to understand what you're talking about. If you're talking to a salesperson, don't do that. Don't assume that a salesperson knows Scala by heart. Or a manager or what. You get the point, right? Adjust the message depending on who you're talking to. In politics, we're doing this all the time. If you come to me and ask me like, so Mats, why should I vote for you? What are the most important issues for your party? I will give you one answer. If you come and approach me and ask, Mats, what's your stand on agricultural politics? I'll give you a totally different answer. And if you are like, what's your stand on agricultural politics given the newest development in the trade agreement between Colombia and Brazil? That's like, you get another different answer, right? Because, yeah, I'll give the answer based on how much I believe you know already, and in the communication, we'll sort that out, right? So, yeah, I've seen so many developers do this wrong, like talking the same way with the same words and the same level, regardless of who they're talking to. And you can see like the person they're talking to just like zoning out, going black. don't be that person. And also, people have lots of things going on, right? Typically managers or lots of these things are when you're talking to managers, but they also come together in general, I think. Like, people might have lots of things going on at work. They're like preparing for the next meeting, writing the summary of the last meeting. There are lots of meetings in the manager section. Writing a document, preparing for all these things, right? But they also might have a sick parent at home, or they're unsure whether their kids are okay, or all these things. So you are competing for their attention. They might have lots of other concerns in the mind. So when you're giving a message or asking a question, trying to convince them on something, have this in mind that they might not be like at 100% every day. None of us are, but like at different levels. Therefore, what is the most important question? What is the most important message? So that was the message, and you have figured out, okay, what's the message I'm going to bring forward? And the next one is, okay, how do I make them listen to what I'm saying? You can have the best message in the world, but if they aren't listening, well, no use, right? So first one, in this section, which topics you talk about, that's often more important than actually what you say about it. So in politics, we have like, say for instance, the Green parties, they tend to be great at environmental issues. That's the reason why they exist, right? Because they mainly focus on the environment. For them, the most important thing hardly is like exactly what they get to say about environmental issues. The important thing for them is that people discuss the environment, that is an important issue in the campaigns leading up to elections. And it's the same way with different parties. They have different strengths, like different areas where people tend to listen to those parties. So the important thing for those parties is to put their what should I call it, favorite topics, strong topics on the agenda, so that they get discussed. And it's kind of the same way in software. For security, for instance, this is really true for security and many other topics, but I've seen this with security in teams. We have like, I'm not sure if this is a Norway only thing or a general thing, but security champion, is that a concept that sounds familiar? Yeah, great. Yeah, that's exactly this. So someone that has the responsibility to make the team talk about and think about security. So framing, this is a funny kind of political topic. Yeah, by the way, there are lots of colors, so there are going to be lots of colors for the entire presentation, so just get used to it. So framing is like, or put another way, how we frame the problem. What is the problem description? In politics, we do this where we say like, if you have a case that you spend more money than you have, you can phrase that in two ways. You can phrase that in, we need to cut costs, as parties on the right side of the political spectrum tend to do, or you can frame it as, we need to increase income, as parties on the left side of the political spectrum tend to do. So this is also relevant pretty often, because when you want something to change, or in that matter, don't change, stay the way it is, there are often many people that needs to say yes for it to become that way. And often you don't have to talk and convince each and every one. You can figure out like, who do I need to convince for people to listen to them so that things get my way. So say for instance that you want to switch from a monolith architecture to a microservice architecture. If you want to do that, figure out like, okay, who are the people that are most engaged and most involved in this issue? And you can figure out, like, okay, Susan, she's the main architect, the technical architect of the team. I need to have her on board. People listen to her when she talks about architecture. Okay, I need to convince her. And then you feel, okay, for Susan, these things tend to be important. Okay, so I'll emphasize on the things that she cares about to make her on board. Also, I know that John tends to be the one asking the difficult questions about everything and being like, and opposing changes in general. Okay, I need to talk to him. I need to convince him why that's a good idea, or at least don't make him block it. Because there's also kind of a spectrum into convincing, right? You can have someone like, yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm going to do this fight with you. I also want this to happen. And you have people like, or you can have people on the line like, okay, this is cool, I'm in. And you can have like, yeah, whatever. And you can have people like, well, I disagree, but I'm not disagreeing hard enough to take the fight. Or you can, as you often don't want, have people saying, no freaking way, that ain't gonna happen. I'll try my best to stop it, right? So you need to have the right people on the right side of that spectrum. And this builds on that point. Who should pitch the message? Like, who should talk to Susan, the architect? Should I do that? Should someone else on the team do that? Who do they listen to again? So it might be personal relations. It might be trust, right? So say that Jim has cooperated well with Susan for many years. She trusts him. So maybe he should do that talk, right? So it's always this kind of thinking, what's the best way of getting through? And especially for the higher level management, the more important I think this tip is. Like, if there is someone in your company or organization or team or whatever that's always skeptical to everything, I think reacts always by instinct saying no, or like, why should we do that? It's fine as it is. That's probably not the person you want to pitch the most important message you have. Because then the CEO, CFO, whoever has the thinking like, okay, so this person is always skeptical anyway, so why should I listen to her? Whereas if you have a person in the team that's like only raises their voice every now and then on topics that are really important, people tend to listen more to them because they are not taking all the fights. Not saying that it's wrong to taking all the fights, but thinking, okay, who should do the pitch for it to increase the chance of getting through. Yeah, and in politics as well, this may be more politics point than programming perhaps, but like as a minority, you're always expected to say your things, to stand your ground, to front your issues. Be it if you're a minority on gender identity, color, anything, you're always expected to take that fight. Whereas sometimes it's better and easier if I, as a white cis male ally, can do the pitch instead of them. So help your friends and help your team if you are the one that's better off to taking a fight. Yeah, how do you speak the language? Again, if you're talking to a CFO, a financial person, you talk in a totally different way than if you are talking to a developer, of course, as we just started by talking about. Remember that. Remember that their brains and mindset might be totally different than ours. Which is fair, they have different roles. Yeah, and before we're heading on, just a last point here is like some ideas and some changes are small tweaks, like can we use I don't know, JUnit 5 instead of JUnit 4, for instance, upgrading test libraries. That's probably a small change that like won't require that much time and that maturity and many talks to get through. Like you can talk to someone or you can just do it, but like you get approval and you're done, you're heading on and everyone is happy. Whereas if you are trying to do radical changes, say you go from monolith to microservice architecture, you might need to talk to many people or to the same people many times, having long discussions. And the ideas may need to mature. They may need to think about it for a while, consider it themselves, look into some research material, and so on, which is perfectly fine. The bigger the change, the more time and maturity it might need. So, direction. Now you know what the message, you know how to make people listen, but where are you going? First, pick your battles. I already spoke a bit about this one, but like, if I want to convince you about anything, if I want to convince you that you could go from monoliths to microservices, I shouldn't, or the chance of winning through on that argument is bigger if I don't at the same time say, and also we should switch from Scala to Kotlin, and also we should switch from tabs to spaces. Don't shoot me. So like, pick your battles, pick your most important questions, and prioritize. So start, what is the change you want the most? Or the non-change, if you want this to stay. But like, what is the change you want the most? Stick to that. Start with taking that fight. And once that's landed, either the way you wanted it or another way, then you can start bringing up the next important issue. I just assume that everyone has strong issues. Strong issues. Has strong opinions on many issues. So, are there any architects in the room? Yeah, a couple of you. So I hope that you know that every decision has downsides. Like, it's always a priority. Like, if you are doing monoliths, the good side of that is that it's less moving parts. If you're doing microservices, it's easier to say which team has the responsibility for each, and so on. And it's the same thing in politics. So, if you want to cut coal and coal mining, because that leads to lots of climate emissions, then that means that coal miners lose their job. That's certainly a downside. So they need something else to do. That's a decision with downsides. And if they are to keep their job, then the climate emissions are going on, so it's a downside. Yeah, either decision you make has its own downsides. The same with microservices, monoliths, it's a trade-off. And everything, that's a long rant, I'm not going to start that hard now, but like every decision in software, every architectural decision has downsides. That's why you can say that consultants are always saying it depends, because it depends on circumstances, it depends on what are you prioritizing, what is important to you, what are you trying to achieve. Yeah, and if you win, which I hope you do sometimes, don't win too hard. What do I mean by this? Well, as I said, every decision has its downsides. That means that some of your colleagues, co-workers may emphasize the downsides and therefore want a different decision that you do. And you win, that's good, but like, don't laugh at your colleagues, don't mock them, don't be like, yeah, I won, I'm the best. Like, yeah, don't be an idiot. Yeah, I've seen these things, not in politics, but in programming. Not in programming, but in politics. Where people use the spare time doing politics, and if you win too hard, mock people, then they start doing something else with their time. It's not fun to hang around you when you're such a bad winner. And sometimes you should let them win. Not on important things, or not on the things that are important to you. But like, if there are topics that that's not really important to you, for me it might be like, okay, every year we in politics write a report on what we as a board have done for the past year. We write a report saying that, so we can show to our members that we are actually been doing what you want us to do. And if someone wants that report to be written in a specific way, I can be like, well, I disagree with you, but sure, we can do that. It's not important to me, but it's important to you. And if I let you have that win, then the chances are that you are more friendly to me the next time when I'm fronting an issue that's important to me. Maybe this is tabs versus spaces for you. That's one of those programming issues with me. Like, if you're into spaces or tabs, I don't know, I don't care. I'll go with whatever fits you, and hopefully that gives you some goodwill. It gives me some goodwill on other issues that are important to me. Yeah, and sometimes you might compromise on things like tools, velocity, like how fast are you changing, which tools are you using on the way, and so on. But the direction you're heading to, I'm not willing to compromise on that. I want to go in that direction. Okay, we're probably not going as fast as I want us to, but that's fair. But we're going in the right direction. So remember, who do you do things for? Why are you here or at your job doing things? For me, I'm working for the Norwegian government with pension system. So I'm at work every day to make life easier for those receiving pensions in Norway. And that's why I'm there. And in politics, I want to change the world in my direction. That's why I'm there. I'm not there to haggle with having a fire. I'm not there to write reports or do things that doesn't really matter to me. I'm there because I want to change the world in my direction. Nothing less. And that leads us to the question, what is the most important, most useful thing you can do now for the greater good? In alignment with a bigger goal, like as you're going in this direction, what is the most important thing you can do? I know the most tempting thing to do might be to start on that new feature. Start on implementing that feature you know you want to implement. It's going to be fun. You're going to learn so much technical stuff along the way. Maybe you can use AI or things you want, technology you really like or you want to learn more about. It's a great opportunity. But it might not be the most important thing for the team. Yeah, so some political examples, like I want to talk to voters, but someone should write that email. So I should do that first. Or as happened to me a couple of weeks ago at an event we arranged, was that I wanted to have a beer, to chat with my friends, to talk, just relax and talk to them. But we had an event. The key to the door upstairs was missing. No one knew where it was. No one knew who had it. Of course, I need to figure out that. I need to handle that issue so that we could finish the event with success. And then, only after then, I could celebrate with a beer. That's also a win. Like, once you've done the boring things, the things that you should do, have to do, you often get a chance to have a beer afterwards, which is a great reward. Yeah. And this is what you should do instead of starting a new feature, right? Often it's like, you have flaky tests, okay, you fix those. You have a colleague that's done a huge change or proposed a huge change to the application. So they have submitted like 2,000 lines pull request or whatever size, but like that big pull request, you know that someone on the team should do this. I don't really want to because it's heavy and lots of work and lots of reading and so on, and I need to use all my brain focus on this for hours. But someone on the team needs to do it to push your project or your application, your product forward. Someone needs to do this. That someone should be you. Or if you have a bug from a customer, getting an angry email or something, that you can feel that, I want to procrastinate this. I want to do this one later. I don't want to handle this. Do that first. Because that's the most important. Probably most important. I don't know each issue, of course, but it's typically the most important. And that means that, or the idea behind this is the less struggles you have along the way, the less things you have in progress, the better you are, the better situated you are. After that, have a well-deserved cup of coffee or beer, or whatever fits your desire. Yeah, but the coffee at the office is never good. Like at Zero, I haven't been yet to either an office for a political party or a political organization, nor have I been to a programming office or a software company's office where the coffee is good. And it seems like that's just the way it is. No can do. Yeah, just to remind the Slido. Now we should be halfway through, and on my clock we're exactly halfway through. So that's a good sign. So let's do a bit about communication and feedback. And of course, how you ask determines what kind of feedback do you get. Or I say feedback in that in the broad term that certain kind of means response. So whatever what you ask, how you ask determines what the response you get is. It's like this feels like communications 101. It kind of is, but it's important anyway. Also, how you structure your question or your message and how you present it, it determines what do you get feedback on, what kind of feedback do you get. And here it's hard to give like a general advice because sometimes you can be like real broad high level, say, well, I'm thinking about going from Kafka to Redis, or going from microservice monolith to microservices, and be like, sure, I can give you some general advice on that. So if you want general advice, you can give little information, but if you want more specific advice about your specific situation, then you give more information, of course. And the downside, again, about giving much information is that you might lose track of the bigger picture. But all these things you can typically regulate and handle during just a normal conversation, right? If you have time for that and the people to do the talk, then it's fine. But also open or closed questions. It's like you get a totally different response if you say like, should we do this? Instead of asking, what are the consequences of doing this or that? And, well, sometimes you just want an approval. Or you want a quick, like, yes, no. Get a feeling of, okay, where are people? And then you move forward with your life. And sometimes you want more discussion, more pros and cons with different options. Both are perfectly fine for different situations. So yeah, I'll say this, more details, that means more things to get feedback on, but also more things to get derailed on. So you can get feedback that's positive, that's always nice, of course, and you can get feedback that's more critical. And that's important to understand, okay, where does that criticism come from? Why are you so critical? Why are you asking all those questions? Why don't you agree with anything I say, in a sense? I have this feeling every now and then. And like, my first, the response I really want to give is like, why are you such an idiot? Why don't you agree? Why don't you understand this? Why are you so stupid? Hopefully, and luckily I'm smart enough to not do that very often. And just take a step back and ask myself, why are they giving this feedback? Where is it coming from? Does it come from a good place or a bad place? So listen to the feedback you get, but don't follow it blindly. And understand if it comes from a good place or a bad place. And as far as I've experienced so far, most often it comes from a good place. They want you to do well, but they are concerned about something. Often they are concerned. They see downsides that you either don't see, or that you don't emphasize, or that you acknowledge that, well, yes, this is a downside, but if we also do this, then we can handle that pretty well. So it won't be a big problem. But of course, haters gonna hate. So don't waste too much time and energy on people that never will agree with you anyway, or just are there to mock you or take your time. So in my political life, spending much time activism for a left-wing party, I sometimes get people coming up to me and saying, blah, 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 Stalin, blah, blah, blah. They're like, those people they never want me any good. Like, they aren't there to really discuss these issues. They aren't there to like advance the discussion in any way. They're just there to spend my time and to be a troublemaker. And in programming, you might have every now and then, hopefully not in your team, but especially on the internet, it's like you ask questions. Well, I have this concurrency problem in Java, and it takes two minutes, and then you have like, you should rewrite everything into Rust or Go, or in Kotlin this is not an issue, or all this, and just don't waste too much time. Say like, thank you for your advice. This is not really what I was looking for. Have a good day. See you never. And move on with your life. So team. I've spoken lots of team already. Team is important. And I strongly believe in this, like if you're working hard together, you're advancing, you're moving, doing whatever you can to make the best product for your users, or to change the world in your direction. That builds unity. It builds strong relations between the people working together, and it brings the sense that you in the team, you're a community. You're working together. You're helping each other, and you're doing this exactly as a team. But remember a couple of things. The first one: be kind, be nice. It's totally fair to disagree with people on your team. It's a warning if you don't do that ever. Like, it's totally fine to totally disagree, but be kind to each other, be nice to each other. Say that, well, I don't think it's a good idea to go from monolith to microservices because it doesn't fit with our setting. It's not smart. Don't do that. We shouldn't do that. And I shouldn't reply to that with, you're an idiot. Or like, if you see a pull, I've often seen this, experienced this as well, in pull requests on GitHub or in a written form anywhere, that people write comments that aren't really kind, aren't really nice. It's like, why the heck are you doing things this way? This is a stupid solution. It's like, come on. That's not friendly, that's not nice. I know that, yeah, you and me, we aren't best friends. Like, on a personal level, we aren't really talking that well together. We aren't made for each other, to put it easily, but we are professionals. We are working for the same users on the same team with the same issues. We should be able to communicate professionally. Don't break each other down. Yeah, and also remember there's a bias that if people you like do something, you tend to like it better than if people you don't like do something. Even if it's the exact same thing. So just remember that. Look at what is actually done and like not who is doing it. And yeah, even though you don't necessarily like each other, you need to respect each other, you need to trust each other to be a team at its best. So trust, don't misuse it. Like, if people on your team trust you, don't make them regret that decision. Because building trust takes lots of time. Breaking it down can be done in a really short period, surprisingly short period of time. I've seen this happen to so many politicians. Where it's like they have been misusing their power or their position to gain personal benefits. It might be corruption. It might be things that aren't legally corruption, but are kind of on the way to corruption and so on. And after spending many years building trust, like finding their place, become elected several times, and then suddenly, whoa, you're just using this for your own good. What? So everyone's favorite topic, meetings. Because every team has some meetings, right? Every now and then you have a meeting. Meetings are always too long. In politics, they're always too long. In programming or like software development teams, meetings are always, or almost always, to be fair, too long. And some people, both in politics and in software world, they talk and talk and talk. You need to stop them. And for a meeting, you need an agenda. You need to say that we should discuss this topic, or this is why we're here. We are here to, okay, just to have a daily stand-up, that might be an agenda, or like to figure out whether we should do microservices or a monolith, that might be a meeting. That's an agenda, but it doesn't have to be complicated, it doesn't have to be long and very structured, but you need an agenda saying, why are we here? Like weekly meeting? No. That's not an agenda, that's not a reason. That's not a reason to be there. And you need guidelines and culture. And the amount of guidelines you need depends on how many are you, what problems do you see during your meetings. Like you might have someone on the team that talks and talks and talks for many minutes at a time. I've seen that in politics. So in my organization, we have limits saying that you can talk at most 2 or 3 minutes, and then the next person talking. That's a guideline we needed to introduce because some people were talking for way too long, taking time from everyone else. Or you might need someone to write minutes, or at least writing some notes, recording decisions. Or you might have a guideline saying we should have most 45 minutes before having a break, or you can have a guideline saying it's totally fair to leave a meeting if you aren't required to, or like if you being there doesn't bring anything to the table. All these things can be done if you see that it would be nice for your organization. But you also need a culture that says that, well, yeah, we have guidelines, but we also actually follow them. We respect them. Whenever someone breaks the guidelines, you could say in a nice way, well, I'm sorry, John, but now you're talking for a long period of time. Maybe you should stop talking, please. Don't say, John, shut up, you idiot. Yeah, and manage expectations. Yeah, I could go on talking about meetings, but you got the issue, so let's head on to the expectations instead. This is a fascinating thing. I've seen so many times that there are tasks that no one notices until no one does them. So it's like, well, oops, someone should have sent out that agenda. Oh, why isn't the coffee here? Oh, because no one ordered it. Did we have to order it? Like all these things you don't really think about before they are a problem. This is kind of the same as in soccer, at least until the video assistance referee came a few years ago. But don't get me started on that. Then we are always going. But as a referee in a soccer game, you did a great job if no one noticed that you were there. And this is kind of the same things, like the tasks that someone does, so everything floats smoothly. And of course, properly. Like, well, yeah, someone remembered to order coffee, but they ordered like 2 cups for 8 people. Okay, that's not properly, right? Another thing I've experienced, getting questions from so many developers on my team, on other team, like, should we use Redis or Kafka, or should we go from Nux to Next? Which tools should we use? What kind of linting should we use for front end? Should we use GitHub Actions, or should we use Google Cloud Build? Should we, like, people expect you to have opinions on everything. At least people expect me to have opinions on everything. And like, what kind of coding style should you have backend? Do you use extension? How do you use extension functions in Kotlin? Should, like, all of these questions. There's so many things you can have opinions on. And surprisingly often they're like, wow, you have an opinion on that? Wow. I didn't know that was a big thing. And the same thing in politics as well. Both on bigger issues like the genocide in Gaza or the Russia's war in Ukraine, but also people expect you to have opinions on like lizards. Should it be allowed to bring lizards to Norway? I don't know. How big should a fish be before you should have certain quotas for how much you can fish of it? Well, big enough. I don't know. You have so many. There are so many things, so many issues, both in politics and in programming, that you can have opinions on, which is totally fair if you have, but surprisingly often, I don't really have. Yeah, and not to like drag you down, but it will never be good enough. You will never be finished. There will always be more things you could do. You kind of should do, like should have done, more in a sense. And you can always do more, which is another way of saying the same thing. So you can always eliminate some more technical depth, improve the documentation, you can fix some bugs, answer customers, make some plans, implement a new feature. Like, there's always more work to do. And in politics, there's also like, you can always knock on a door, or you can talk to another voter. You could write a better review or a better document for the next meeting, and so on and so on. You could sort out the office, like clean up all the mess that's there. There's always more things to do, always more things to do. And there's so often, especially in politics, you get questions like, why didn't your party do more about this and this issue? It's like, often the answer is, because there are only 24 hours a day. And also you get the customers like, why is this bug still here? Well, because we are 4 developers in the team, and I'm working on the infrastructure, and Sarah is fixing the front-end bug, and those 2 other developers are building that really important feature that the other customer needs. So we aren't more people. It's next in line, but it's not fixed because we're doing other things. That's higher prioritized. So this is a TLDR. Probably not. Yeah. So I'm doing the creative variant of taking the TLDR at the end, or almost the end. So prioritize. I've spoken lots about prioritization because, well, it's important. Prioritize the most important aspects, the most important changes you need, the most important things to do. Adjust the message to the one you're talking to, or once. Of course, the same thing counts if you're talking to 3 people instead of just 1 person. And the third thing, work together. In your team, be allies, support each other, instead of like competing hardly, to say that way. So I am going to move towards the end, but hopefully we have some questions. So I can switch into. So Guy has this question. Do you think that teaching developers some of the advice in the presentation could and or should be part of programming, education, and professional development? Ooh, I like that idea. I haven't actually considered it myself, but it would be nice. And maybe I think the answer should be yes, in the sense that, man, I think many developers need or have lots of potential, to put it that way, in human skills. And having some of that during education it's probably a good idea. Ooh. What advice could you suggest for handling hater behavior from others in the team, especially when it's an everyday occurrence? First of all, I'm sorry for you. No, but that's not cool. That's not a nice situation to be in. And this is not really my area of expertise, so I should be like conscious and not advising too much. But I would talk to someone with responsibility, like the manager or manager's manager, or maybe someone from the union, and say, and it's best with like specific, concrete examples, saying like, well, yesterday, Alan gave me the feedback that I was an idiot, and 2 days ago, Alan said that Jane is stupid, and like, if it's written, like, add screenshots and like really specific documentation, so you can point out, I say, like, I experienced this and this and this behavior from Alan. That's not really cool. I just wanted you to know, because, yeah, and just tell him. That's what I think I would do. Like, tell my manager that I've experienced this behavior from Alan, so and so and so, and then I expect the manager to be a grown professional adult saying that we can't have it this way. So they won't really be your thing to handle, your problem to handle anymore. Okay, so I think I answered the questions that are here. So we have 3 minutes left, so just I could talk on this for hours. I'm not going to do that, but let's skip this one. This is the talk I've thought about giving, like doing a brand comparison between campaigning and procurement, and between so listing the similarities. But I figure like that's boring. Yeah, it's true. It's kind of fascinating that campaigning, like doing campaigning for an election, several organizations spend lots of resources. Someone ends up losing. Like all the work you put into campaigning for nothing, in quotation mark, because there are something, but in general, it's wasted work. Focus is lost from the day-to-day work because you're spending time and focus and money campaigning, and you promise lots of things that might be hard to keep later on. Exactly the same if you're trying to win a procurement, like a contract with the government, right? Many organizations spend lots of time doing that. Some win, some don't. And after all, so much energy, time, and resources are spent on this. But that's not a big thing. Also, I thought about talking about a lot about estimation and polling. Polling, like, okay, who's going to win the election here? Kind of like estimation, right? Well, it's going to take me 2 weeks to do this. Yeah, whatever. There are lots of uncertainty. When you're polling, you don't know, are you reaching a representative amount of the population? You don't know. When you're estimating, okay, there are so many things you don't know. So there's lots of uncertainty. So I've spoken faster than I thought I would, so that gives us 1 minute for bonus rants. I'm finishing up with some rants, like typically I say kill your darlings, and in this presentation it's like move your darlings to the end, so hopefully you don't have to kill them. Okay, yeah, this is them. Wrong color on this one, but you can see beware of focus fields. And that is like if you have in your UI a color or a spelling mistake that doesn't make sense, or you use a word in the wrong sense, then that will steal focus from a message. In politics, it's like, oh, well, that suit didn't really fit, or like, wow, that's a creative dress for that situation. Focus fields that don't really put emphasis on the message. Yeah, words may be confusing. So agile, what the heck is agile anymore? I don't know. No-fly zone, that's the term that we use for the war in Libya. Special military operation, or the war in Ukraine. Working capital, yeah. So words may not mean what you think they mean. Not making a decision is also a decision. If you or your manager are postponing a decision long enough, that's also a decision being made. And most often it's not the best decision. Not take a decision. Yeah, don't remove features that users need. Don't close down their local school. It's better to keep the feature you have and make them work than to add new ones, typically. Same TLDR. Yeah, it says time ends. So thank you very much for your attention. I'm here for the rest of the conference. If you have any more questions or insights or anything, I'll be happy to talk to you. And thank you very much for your attention.